washing attempt at forcing, stating that Akufo-Addo suspends SML GRA deal, appoints KPMG to audit transaction. NPP Bimbala office vandalized over removal of Alhaji Zaruk's name from vetting list. PNC's flag bearer hopefuls to cough up 100k Ghana cedi as filing fee. Government must take bold steps in ending Boko conflict, Ejra Sechedumase MP. Local level polls easy to conduct runoffs in areas that recorded same results. Bawumia reaffirms government's commitment to build a resilient economy. Don't give up. God is not finished with Ghana yet. Mahama to Ghanaians. Wejagbawi, taxi drivers demonstrate over demolition of their structures. Right. And finally, TUSAG declares nationwide strike effective January 8. Which ones would you want to go further?
Well, I think I would like to read. I don't know if you want to touch on them and the silent killer story. The one on
the unmasking the cervical cancer in Africa.
Yeah. Is this a month?
No, it's cancer month is way past. That's in October.
No, that's breast cancer.
That's breast cancer month.
Yes.
Cervical cancer
is a different
month. Is I think is every month.
No, it's not. It's this month.
We stand to be.
It's
this
actually
month.
January.
It's in January.
Yes, it's actually January.
Though.
Yeah, I thought as much. Yeah. So I think let's do that story.
Let's do that story.
Yeah.
So unmasking the silent killer, cervical cancer in Africa. That is by Citi newsroom. As I walked through the bustling airport, the air was thick with a pungent smell that seemed to linger, leaving an indelible mark on my senses. My colleague remarked how unpleasant the smell was and wondered why an international airport would smell so bad. The odor was familiar to me, though. It brought back memories of when I was a young doctor on the gynecology wards, and even a recent memory from 2 weeks earlier when I walked around the radiation oncology unit at my hospital.
Wow.
I wonder who she was and where she came from. I pondered how she had sat on the aircraft for hours, knowing how offensive the smell was and how she felt being the object of unsolicited attention. It was a smell that, in its peculiarity, spoke volumes about a silent menace that had been quietly plaguing the African continent. Cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is the 4th most common cancer in women globally and the 2nd most common cancer in the African continent, accounting for 12% of all cancers. In Africa, 34 out of every 100,000 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer, and 23 out of every 100,000 women die from cervical cancer every year. This is a stark difference in comparison to North America, where 7 out of every 100,000 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer, and 3 out of every 100,000 women die of the disease every year. Cervical cancer is a disease that affects the cervix, opening of the uterus, and is caused mainly by the human papilloma. It is preventable and
HPV.
curable HPV and curable in its early stages, but can be devastating and have devastating consequences when missed. In later stages, it causes uncontrolled vaginal bleeding and severe pain, which reduces quality of life. Its pungent smell follows its victim like the shadow of death, and it can be perceived from miles away. As early as 1920, Dr. Georgios Inkalao, if I didn't mention it right, forgive me, revolutionized cervical cancer detecting globally when he discovered cells that could be scraped from the cervix and viewed microscopically. It is a long one. Make sure you go to citinewsroom.com and read about it. But HPV vaccination affects from the ages of 12 to 13 years. That is how early it starts for most women.
Yeah,
and
no, I mean,
it's, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah. No, so I'm just saying that for me, I think it's important for us to push the awareness, you see, because the more people are aware, the more they will say, okay, you know what, I haven't gotten tested this year, let me go get checked. Let me go get checked, you know, and make a habit of checking. But you see, it's It's called a silent killer for a reason.
Because most people
It's
are not
painless.
aware of it.
No,
You will
it's
not even feel the
painless.
pain when it starts.
When you feel the
It only
pain,
gets
you are about
deeper.
to die.
When the bleeding also starts.
Yes, but you are
That's
in
the
painful
final
stage.
stages.
Yes. Do you see the thing? So when you feel the pain, it's too late at that point. HPV is
It's a killer.
in our environment. It's here, right? So the checking is critical, you know, and you will not feel pain. So the mindset that, oh, but I don't have any pain. Why am I going to hospital for checkup? I don't have any pain. That's what will kill you.
But
see?
then again, Kweku, there's this one thing I know about women. There's those discharges that we have
Yes.
as women.
Yes.
There's the monthly discharge
Yes.
that is
Yes.
common.
Yes.
And before the monthly discharge comes, we
Yeah.
know there are certain whitish, yellowish,
Yes.
brownish. You
Yes.
should know the stages. White,
Yes.
you know you're healthy. If it's yellowish, it may depend on your diet that
Yes.
you may have taken within a month
Yes.
or within maybe 3 months.
Yes.
If it's brownish and smelly and quite
Then you know there's some
then
kind
you
of an
know there's
infection.
a problem. There's
Yeah.
an infection.
Yeah.
So make sure you're visiting the hospital when it gets to that stage.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting swabbed and then you're getting constant checks. Now, the moment you realize it is quite watery on a constant basis,
Yeah.
then that one is even more scarier, especially when you know you haven't gone through any phase with a man and the water is coming out, then you have a problem. You
Yeah.
should make sure you're visiting the hospital to get checked. Now, there's this, as I was reading further on, it is saying because of financial constraints, the monthly check may be a problem because in UK, you know, or in the Europes,
Yeah.
you know, there's the health that will help
Yeah.
you. You know, there's a health card that
Yeah.
will help you. You know, you are paying
Yeah.
some form of tax
Yeah.
that will help you
Yeah.
when you go. Maybe
Yeah.
there's even free screening
Yeah.
that will help you.
Yeah.
But how often or constant are we getting free screening for cervical cancers?
Well,
How often are we creating that awareness?
No, you see this month as we get into the month, you will see a lot of campaigns going on because we've dealt with MWAG, that's the Medical Women's Association of Ghana. In times past, they do a lot of campaigns during this month for cervical cancer. They have free screening as well, so I think people should take opportunity to get screened, right? Some of the screening costs money, but in this month when they are doing the awareness,
it's free.
They do a lot of free screening, and there are different facilities that do the screening. So, you see, for me, let's stop the let's stop the excuses of saying, "Oh, I don't have money. It's too expensive." This is a month where a lot of people will be doing free screening. So if you take the opportunity to get screened, at least you know that till next year, January, you can at least be sure that you'll be okay, you're clean. The next year, January, you check again. In case somewhere during the year something showed up, at least you can check, you know. Because you see, the cost of medical care when you now have it, it's more than the checkup.
Yeah. But
and you will find the money to go and
you definitely find the money, especially when you are sick.
So
but pap smears are things or medical experiences most of us women actually go through. So I do not understand why we tend to ignore the fact that there's something called cervical cancer as women. Because most of us decide, this week I'm going for a pap smear. This next 2 weeks.
When
or
you
next
say
month,
most, you're talking about a certain category of people.
Category of people.
Because it's not
and I
most.
think there was one thing that I also learned on a field that I was on. If you are able to collaborate with the NCA, it is not only by television and radio, especially when it comes to the rural areas. Because when these things happen, forgive me, like we were saying, a category of people are affected because they lack the awareness. They do not know. So there's the van and then there's the microphone.
Like the information vans and all of that.
They should go around. I think there should be a collaborative effort between the NCA and the cervical cancer to be able to channel that communication to the rural areas so they can hear about it.
The NCCE, the Ministry of Information, who own those vans, they are the owners of those vans. And I think that in the medical facilities, you know, so if like it's a tripartite collaboration, if they can work together and make sure that we do awareness as well, of course, on TV as well, we'll do our bit as well. But I want us to do another story before we go for sports. Across Dam Village, Citi TV, Citi FM donates items to victims at Mafi Aklamado again. All right, the story says the management of Citi FM and Citi TV for the second time donated relief items to the victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage at Mafi Aklamado in the Central Tong district of the Volta region. Now, Citi FM and Citi TV's Volta Relief Project, backed by viewers, listeners, and corporate partners, remain steadfast in providing aid to those affected by the Volta River overflow and Akosombo Dam spillage crisis. Now, the story goes on. Displaced residents now in various temporary shelters due to the flood have struggled to secure essential supplies. Some of the beneficiary communities include Mafi Derine, is it Derine or Dirine? Mafi Dokpo, Bato, Kebedogo, Aklamado, Dove, Echemkope, Apokope, Badakope, Ahokope communities. I'm trying. The area this money is coming. The donation was made in response to a request from a former member of parliament for Central Tong, Joe Kwashi Amewuga Gidisu. And Mr. Gidisu, who opened his home to accommodate some of the affected victims since the spillage, has constantly sought help for the affected persons. Now, delivering the items, the program's manager of Citi FM and Citi TV, Mr. Richard Mensah, expressed the nation's station's unwavering commitment to support the affected victims during these challenging times. Now, I quote, "On behalf of the management of Citi FM and Citi TV and our listeners, we are here to donate generously to you. We are in it for the long haul, and it is not over for us. It is not over yet for us to support you. For us, it is a calling." Receiving the items on behalf of the victims, the MP assured to distribute the items judiciously. He says, "We are grateful to Citi FM, Citi TV. I want to assure the donors that their support is in the right place and the items will be distributed judiciously, and we will later give an account of the distribution," Mr. Gidisu assured. The relief items including rice, oil, water, gari, maize, sardines, sugar, second-hand clothes, drinks, and more were received by Mr. Joe Gidisu and the chief of Mafi Aklamado, Tobe Amu the Fifth, Kofi Gershon Gisenu, on behalf of the victims. They conveyed their heartfelt gratitude to the management and staff of Citi FM, Citi TV, as well as the media house's cherished viewers and listeners. Now, some of the affected victims sharing their thoughts with Citi TV, appealed for additional support for those still grappling with the aftermath of the spillage. And the story goes on there as well. So you can go there and read, and there's some beautiful, beautiful pictures you can see of the items and community members receiving the items as well. Well,
Citi is doing amazing, especially kudos to our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah.
They do amazing.
Absolutely.
Immediately they hear there's a donation about. Sometimes they don't even hear about it. They're just even calling and you be at the station and people are just trooping in and bringing in items because of the empathy they have. You may be sleeping over a roof right now. You may have food to be eating on a daily basis, 3 squared meals on a daily basis. Somebody doesn't have. One went to talk about what my heart, my heart, it was, when you see it and you are not able to.
It's tough, and I think that the least we can do as humans is to look out for each other. Look over your shoulder and somebody else is struggling. Do something. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to break your bank account, but a little something will go a long way to help. Don't go anywhere. Sports Review is next. All right. Now, AFCON 2023 is, of course, taking front line and center stage on the sports news this morning. Now, 24 players trained yesterday on day one of the Black Stars training camp in Kumasi. Now, the team opened a 9-day camping trip in Kumasi on Monday ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations Cote d'Ivoire 2023. Now, after a thorough inspection of the Baba Yara Stadium and the Dr. Kwame Chase Sports Complex at Abrankese, the technical team led by Chris Houghton decided to move the first day training to the Dr. Kwame Che Sports Complex due to the unfavorable state of the pitch at the Baba Yara Stadium. Now, the Black Stars will leave Ghana sometime next week for Cote d'Ivoire to fine-tune preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations, which will be played from the 13th of January to the 11th of February. Now, some tennis news. We have Rafael Nadal impressed on his long-awaited return after almost a year out with injury as he beat Dominic Thiem at the Brisbane International. Now, Nadal, contesting his first singles match in 349 days, won 7-5, 6-1. Now, Spain's 22-time Grand Slam champion has indicated this season will likely be the last of his illustrious career. Now, wildcard Nadal is using the tournament to prepare for the Australian Open, which starts on the 14th of January in Melbourne. Now, he will play Australian Jason Kubler, ranked 102 in the last 16 on Thursday. And with that, we come to the end of Sports Review for the morning.